Fly lines then. Well, when I started, all you needed was a floating line. And if you're only going to fish still waters from the bank on an anchored boat, or a river for that matter, you might well get away with just this one line. You can increase the size of your arsenal by adding an intermediate line and a fast sinking line. You should be able to cope with any given situation. So, why the vast choice of fly lines? Well, the fly fishing puzzle becomes a lot more complicated when you're fishing from a drifting boat. Add to the conundrum the different tapers available. There's double taper, there's weight forward lines, we've got sink tips, we've got sweep lines, we've got tip lines, we've got expert lines. The whole thing can leave you a little bewildered. So in this video, what I want to do is leave you with a clear idea of what you actually need. So, without further ado, let's get into it. There are obviously lots of different options in regards to fly lines. I can only scratch the surface in this short video, but what I want to do is break it down into three things: essential, nice to have, money is no object. Alternatively, you can collect lines over a number of years like I have done. Some fall out of favour and go into the box of no return, but they're never thrown out. You never know when they'll come in handy again. Let's start with river fishing and small still waters. If you're getting started in fly fishing, there really is only one essential line, and that's the floating line. The manufacturers of these lines are many, and the prices vary greatly. Without getting into the technicalities of tapers and length and weight, there is essentially two types. There's double taper and there's weight forward. Double tapered lines can go onto the reel any which way you like, as each end is exactly the same. This can offer better presentation, especially when fishing dry fly. The real beauty of this type of line though is when one end wears out, you simply swap it around on the reel. You're getting two bites of the cherry, a 2 for 1 if you like. These lines have fallen a little out of favour, and weight forward lines are now king. You can get lots of different tapers: rocket taper, universal taper, tactical taper. You get the idea. The main benefit of these lines is their ease of casting and ability to turn over larger flies. Most of my lines are of the weight forward flavour, with the trend of faster action rods becoming more popular in recent years. Weight forward lines load up these rods much more easily. So, a floating line is essential. But what would be a nice to have? If it was me, 75% of the time I would be content to fish my floating line from a static position and know that the correct choice of fly pattern and a little patience will enable me to put my fly in front of the fish. The other 25% of the time, it's handy to have an intermediate line. The advantage of this is the fly can be fished at a uniformal depth, causing very little disturbance in the surface that may well spook fish. A fast sinker would be my third choice if I could only pick three lines, ideal for winter fishing or in the height of summer when the fish are sulking on the bottom. This will get your line and the fly patterns down to the fish. A booby pattern fished on a short leader on a fast sinking line can be super effective on its day. Folks, if you're getting some value from the videos, please don't forget to leave them a like. It really helps the channel grow and it encourages me to make more content. Now, if you have any questions about this video, please leave them in the comments section below and I'll do my very best to answer them. So let's jump straight back in. So far then, we've discussed what I would consider essential lines if you're fishing from a static position. So from a bank or an anchored boat, these three lines will see you through most given situations. From a drifting boat though, it's a different ball game altogether. Depending on conditions, you have not got the time to let your fly sink and get to the correct depth. You've got to make that happen. The best way to do that is to have a number of different fly lines. So let's go through them from top to bottom. A floater then is a given. Now, they vary greatly in quality and price, and you pays your money and takes your choice. It really is up to you. Next comes the tip lines. What's a tip line? Well, basically it's a floating line where the front end dips in the water. Tip lines are relatively new. I still recall a time when people just used to use old floaters. So a floater would get to a certain age and the tip would no longer stay on the surface and just incline in the water slightly. And this gave you a great advantage by anchoring your cast, and lots of the top competition guys used to use this. An old floater sufficed. Manufacturers were quick to jump on board with this, and now there is a fantastic array of various sink tips. They come in various flavours. There's 3 foot, 6 foot, 12 foot, there's slow tips, there's fast tips. Again, it's all up to you what you would like to do. I used to swear by the Rio midge tip, which was probably one of the first sink tip lines. I've since retired that and moved across to the new airflow sink tips. And I only have a fast and slow sink tip at 3 foot. I don't really see the advantages of having any longer than that. And the reason for that is I can get the desired effect by increasing or decreasing the length of my leader. Next comes the slow intermediates. My personal favourite is the Airflow Slow Glass. It's a 6 cents line, and what this allows you to do is fish high in the water column but without the wake of a floating line to scare fish. It will fish at a uniform depth and it can be very effective on its day. The next group of lines I would like to talk about then are the sinkers. I like to use Airflow DI lines for exploring the depths. There are other manufacturers of sunk lines, but to my mind none are as good as the Airflow 6 cents lines. I have the DI3, the DI5, the DI7 and of course the DI8. The number after DI, which stands for density intensified, gives you the sink rate. For example, the DI3 sinks at 3 inches a second. Why is it important to understand this? Well, if you're approaching your fishing in a logical manner and counting down your casts, you can work out what depth the fish can be located. If you can work that out, you can work out the best line to use to catch more fish. You just need to do a little bit of mental arithmetic. Now, I'm mental, but I was always shite at maths. So what I've done is made a little chart that I keep in my tackle box and I can refer to so I know what depth I'm catching at. This can really help. So if you're catching deep and you're fishing with a DI3 for example, it might pay to cut your count down in half and go to a DI7. For drifting boat fishing, or loch style fishing as we call it here in the UK, the lines we've talked about, less the DI8 will suffice. The DI8 only comes out occasionally and it's usually to scare the bejesus out your boat partner. They're a bugger to cast. Okay, let's talk about the nice to haves. Now, I'm going to mention sweep lines, and I say nice to haves. I wouldn't be without the range of sweep lines. What they do is they sink belly first in a U shape. So for example, a DI7 will have the front end taper of a DI5 and the belly of a DI7, making it fish in a U shape. Now, it's probably a confidence thing. I just wouldn't be without them personally, but if you're just starting out, the other lines I would say are probably more important. The sweep lines come in DI3, DI5 and DI7, and they're absolutely fantastic for fishing the technique of the hang. So when you finish your retrieve, you slowly bring your flies up in the water column, and that's when you can get fantastic takes on the hang. It'll get you them bonus fish. The sweep lines are so versatile that I would never leave home without them. I would feel naked. Well, as I said at the start of this video, I wanted to leave you with a clear idea of exactly what you'll need. So if you're just starting out, a good quality floating line, bust. If you only ever intend to fish from the bank or an anchored boat, you can add an intermediate line and a sinking line to your arsenal, and that should do you for all of your fishing. If you are going to get into loch style fishing, at a bare minimum, I would have a floater, a slow glass, a DI3, DI5 and DI7. This will cover you for the vast majority of your fishing. Over a period of time you can build on this core selection to include tip lines and sweep lines as need and finances dictate. I hope that's been of some help to you, and if you enjoyed this video, why not check out this video here? I'm sure it's going to help you improve your fishing. See you all next time.